Welcome to episode 14, Life Beyond the Military Outdoors, with Anna Baker Cresswell.
Welcome to the Wellbeing Garden, where you'll learn, grow and thrive with expert horticulturalist Cath Manuel.
Hello and welcome to the Wellbeing Garden. I'm Cath Manuel. Thank you so much for joining me for this fantastic episode. Now, in this episode, I'm joined by Anna Baker Cresswell, who is the Development Director of HighGround. And HighGround is a UK organisation that delivers horticultural therapy activities to seriously injured members of the armed forces. It's part of their rehabilitation process. And know you're going to love hearing all the amazing stories about the program that's being run through HighGround. So thanks so much for joining us today in the Wellbeing Garden, Anna. It's lovely to connect again.
It's great to hear you and see you.
All the way across the world. It's wonderful that you're able to join us and share your story with all our listeners, and I really appreciate it because I think it's so incredible what you're doing, and I couldn't wait to share it with the world. So thank you so much. Before we get into about your work, I want to let everyone know that we actually met in a wonderful situation when we both spoke last year at the National Horticultural Therapy Conference in Sydney, where we met and we were both speakers, but through conversations during the day, we realised you had spent time in Noosa living with a wonderful family that I used to work for years ago as their gardener on their property. And that was quite amazing, wasn't it? So you knew all about Noosa and where I live.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
It was wild. It was completely wicked. Yeah. It's a small world.
It is a small world, isn't it? And it was nice that we could catch up on, our friendship with this lovely family and all the amazing things that they do here in the Sunshine Coast in Australia. Now, with your position at HighGround, you're the Development Director, and I want you just to tell everyone about your role at HighGround and how you actually got started there.
I started the charity in 2013, but I've actually been involved in the military charity sector for 10 years because I started a charity before HighGround, which brought horticultural therapy to the military in the UK. Because wow. I knew it had been done a lot in America since Vietnam, but by the military, but it hadn't been done here. So my mother died in 2004, and I wanted to do something in her memory. And so I started a charity called Gardening Leave in 2007, and that's what got me going.
And why did you choose horticultural therapy?
I chose horticultural therapy because my mother was she was what we call a Nightingale nurse. So she trained at St Thomas's Hospital in London, where Nightingale trained.
Yes.
And we have a thing called the National Gardens. And my mother was very big into that. That's where people open their gardens, they're not public gardens, they're private gardens. And people open them to raise money for charity, for Macmillan, which is a big cancer charity in the UK. So my mother was a great people person. She was a wonderful gardener. And I wanted to do something, as I say, in her memory. And we have a walled garden at home. And while I was looking after her, she had Parkinson's. I got great succor from that. And I've always worked for myself. And so to start a charity, to me, I'd never done it before, but it didn't seem that much of a big deal. Like all these things, if I'd known then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have bothered, but I'm delighted I did. I'm very proud of what I'm doing.
Well, it's an amazing program. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And I've been looking through your notes and looking through your website, and the success stories are just incredible from the people that have been coming through. So tell us a little bit about what actually happens at HighGround and the gardeners that come through your programs. I call them gardeners because once you're a gardener, you're a gardener.
Yeah, gardener, exactly. The late Lord Derby used to say, "All men are equal on the turf and under it." I always thought that's a lovely expression. So what we do is we provide the horticultural therapy service for injured patients at the Defence Medical Rehabilitation Centre at Headley Court.
Okay.
So these are all serving personnel. It's tri-service, so it's Army, Navy, RAF, and of course not forgetting the Royal Marines. You should never forget the Royal Marines. So they've been injured either on operations or in training, and if they need surgery, they go to Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, and when they're mobile and they're self-medicating, they come to Headley Court for their rehab, and that's where we come in.
Okay. And so do they have a choice? Do they have to take on gardening activities, or are there other things that are involved as part of their rehabilitation?
We're very much a cog in the wheel, and rehab is about occupational therapy and physio and swimming and all sorts of different things. And in fact, I don't know if you've heard of the charity Help for Heroes.
Yes, I have.
The reason why Help for Heroes was to build a swimming pool at Headley Court, because amazingly there wasn't one. And so Jeremy Clarkson and various others who founded Help for Heroes, they went to visit the lads in 2006 when Afghanistan was really at its height and the injuries were pretty grim. And they realized that there was no pool. And so they said, well, we must start a charity and raise the money. And that's how Help for Heroes began. So horticultural therapy is now, after the 3-year pilot that I started, it's now fully integrated into the range of rehab options. So you'd have to be referred by your occupational therapist. You're not supposed to just rock up. People do, but they're not. There are reasons for referral, and your OT will say why they want you to come to horticultural therapy, and then Carol, who's our horticultural therapist, she will then choose the activities that you will do in order to complement your reasons for referral.
Okay, brilliant. Now, what sort of gardening activities or landscaping activities, because it's all outdoor based, what activities are these wonderful people doing as part of the program?
So there are 3 patient groups at Headley Court. There's neuro, which is all the head injuries, and there's complex trauma, which is the amputees, and then there's what the military in their own inimitable fashion call force generation, which is the joints and the spine. So we have to think of different things for them to do depending on their injuries and their presentation. So we've got lots of vegetable growing, lots of fruit. We've got a garden called the Test Track Garden, which we look after. And that was built in 2007. And it's so you can test, it's lots of different surfaces and gradients, so that people can test their prosthetics.
Wow.
But there's no handrails anywhere because they're not good at handrails. They don't like that. But we maintain that. We look after it. And then there's lots of cut flowers and teaching people how to garden with their children. And there's lots and lots of things going on.
So it's really breaking it down like horticultural therapy is. It's just horticulture as we know it, but it's just modified so it's available for all abilities, really. So your gardeners
Absolutely right.
Yeah,
Absolutely
so they're
right.
landscaping, they're pruning, they're digging holes, planting trees, everything that all gardeners enjoy. But
Absolutely.
they're getting those incredible benefits as part of their rehabilitation.
Yes.
That is just
exactly
amazing.
that.
So tell me a little bit more about what happens through these activities. And the lady who runs the program, she has quite an interesting background as well.
Yes, she does. Her name is Carol. And I knew when I was looking for a horticultural therapist that because this is a unique client group and because horticultural therapy and the military, it hadn't really been done before, I knew when I was looking for a horticultural therapist, I didn't want someone who was already working in this sector, simply because, by and large, the horticultural therapists in the UK work with either children with behavioural difficulties or adults with dementia. And this client group, very different. These are young, pre-injury, very fit individuals, mostly men. And to have somebody who was used to planning a bulb planting session that would last all morning, I just knew wouldn't, it just wouldn't work. So Carol, I found, she was teaching, she was running a horticulture program in a prison. And so she's very calm. She's a brilliant horticulturalist, and she's not frightened. She's not intimidated by a lot of these people. They're angry because they're frustrated because injury was not part of their plan. If you see what I mean. So you need somebody who's very calm, and to have someone who's completely in control of herself, because she radiates calm to them, and they come for the peace and and they also, interestingly, they're hungry for knowledge. They've never, this is something that once you and I both know, it's a terrible addiction, and once you start, you can't really stop. And what we love about her is that they can ask her questions, and she will always have a reason. Why does this germinate, or where does this come from, or what happens if could I graft it? How do I propagate it? So it's very, very important to me that the people who work and are part of this horticultural therapy program are expert horticulturalists.
Yes.
That's, to me, I can overlay the therapeutic approach, which I do, but the absolute baseline is they've got to be good horticulturalists.
Yes. And do you find that the gardeners that come through the program are so interested, they just want to take in more knowledge, and they just have a hunger to know more about this because they're able to complete these activities?
I do. Yes, I absolutely do, Cath. It's fascinating. These are young people. A lot of them join up from very urban environments. So they're not natural country people who, to you and I, gardening is just absolutely what you do. But that's not the case for a lot of these people. They join the military, in a lot of cases, to get away from some social deprivation, if you like. So they're not natural candidates, if you like, for being keen gardeners. But once you get them going, you just can't stop them.
Wow. You would get a lot of great gardening jobs, like landscaping jobs. I remember in Sydney, you mentioned some of the amazing construction and things that they're doing, like those hard landscaping jobs that, I probably did some of those 20 years ago, but at my age now, I'm happy to do all the soft, flowery herbs and things. But these guys are doing that hard landscaping and that physical stuff, which gives them so much pleasure, but it builds their self-esteem and confidence. And that's what I love to hear about this.
Massive. It's absolutely huge, because their whole self-identity of, I'm in the military and I do this, it has been ripped away from them by injury. So they have to learn to, we have to help them try and build their view of themselves back to, put it back together again.
Wow. And do all of them, are they going through rehabilitation to go back to their roles, or a lot of them are going on to other duties?
The two outcomes, if you're a patient at Headley Court, they either mend you and return you to your unit, or they mend you as far as they can, and you're then medically discharged. So it's either one of those two things.
Yeah. Yep. And have any of them continued with their gardening or the horticulture activities after that process? Have you received feedback from them?
Yes, we most certainly have. And one of the great things about the HighGround charity is that when they leave Headley Court, we're still there for them, because the other side of what we do is we help them to find jobs in the land-based sector.
Great.
So it means that once you stop being a patient at Headley Court, and your recovery, it's not complete, but Headley Court have done everything they can for you. We're still there, which for some people can be, once they get back into civilian street, can be quite a daunting place, because it's so unfamiliar. It's what they're used to. So it's nice for them that they still know that we're about to give them a bit of a helping hand.
Fantastic. Now, are you moving to a new location? So you're going through your fundraising activities and things at the moment to prepare for that?
That's right. That's absolutely right. So the late Duke of Westminster decided that he would make a new Headley Court for the 21st century, and then he would gift it to the nation. So it's tragic that he won't get to see it, but it is a wonderful, wonderful legacy. And it's going to be in the middle of the country, and we move there next autumn.
Wow. So the gardens have to be rebuilt and things taken there?
Yes. A lot of the topiary at Headley Court is very famous, and it's a listed landscape. And so we've taken a lot of yew cuttings, and we're going to be taking them with us and doing some topiary when we get to our new home, which is at a place called Stanford Hall. And that's going to be, that's important to not just to us, but also to the patients, because it means that there's something of Headley Court going with them. Lovely.
So they've got another big job to get all that rebuilt, and so will all the gardeners be involved in that, and you're going to bring in landscape designers? How's that process happening?
So it's a 4-acre walled garden at Stanford Hall.
Wow,
stunning! I can hear you being very jealous.
I'm coming over.
It's a wonderful, wonderful. You must come and see it.
I will.
Must come and
I'll
see
be
it.
There.
It will be very, very special, and it's being developed at the moment for the Ministry of Defence by the Duke of Westminster's team. And so when we'll get there next April, and clinical delivery starts in September. So we've got from April to September to make it into a therapeutic environment. So very, very exciting times.
Wow. Maybe I need to plan a trip in September, October to come and visit and do a tour.
Oh, I think it needs to be done, Cath. I do.
Any excuse. Now, you've recently been involved at the Chelsea Garden Show, and I was so excited to see the photos on Facebook and the information you sent through. Tell me all about that.
Well, we get wonderful support from a company called Miracle Grow. You know Miracle Grow. Yep. They've been fabulous to us. And for Chelsea Flower Show this year, they wanted to do a garden about horticultural therapy for children.
Oh, wow.
And Carol, our horticultural therapist, it was a very, very cool idea. Our contact at Miracle Grow knew that Carol, our horticultural therapist, had done Chelsea Gardens before. So they asked her if she would run the planting team, which is a massive undertaking. Anyway, Carol said yes, she would.
Yeah, as you do.
and so she brought in some patients from Headley Court, and they had 4 days to plant up and create this entire garden. You had to walk through a house to get to it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And they won a gold medal. A huge deal. Really, a Chelsea Flower Show gold medal winner. I mean, you don't get bigger than that.
No, you don't. You absolutely don't. That is just incredible. And I bet all your gardeners were over the moon with that.
I think once the enormity of what they had achieved began to sink in, they were pretty tough. But being military people, they did downplay it quite a lot. But they were pretty tough. Yeah.
And I bet Carol was so excited as well.
Oh, she was beside herself. And I was so delighted for Miracle Grow too, because they've been incredibly supportive of us. You know, we're a small charity, and they are unstinting in their generosity with pallet loads of compost and grow bags, and you know it's been wonderful that we were able to repay in a way some of their fantastic support by being able to help them with this.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. So you got plans for next year, do you think? Or do you think this move to the new location might sort of take up a little bit of time and energy?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think probably we might just give it a rain check for a couple of years, because it was very intense, and you know, Carol's not coming with us to Stanford Hall, so we've got to find another Carol, which will be a big challenge, a big challenge.
Let's put the word out that you're looking
we do.
for
Oh, we do.
Head horticultural therapist over there.
That we absolutely do, Cath. I need to raise the money in order to get over the line. We launched the Horticultural Therapy Challenge at Chelsea Flower Show to raise the £354,000 it's going to take us to for the next 3 years to provide this service.
Okay.
So it's quite, for me, it's quite a chunk of money.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I'll make sure that I've got the links in the show notes so people can go there and contribute and help in any way that they can, especially our UK gardeners getting support there. So what are your long-term plans once you get settled in next year into the new grounds? What are the plans from there?
I think one of the things I feel most strongly about is trying to develop horticultural therapy as a rehab option. We're proving that it works for this client group, and there are a lot of things that, unlike in Australia, where your serving military and your veterans are all part of, they all feel as though they do to me, they feel as though they're part of the same community. There's a big distinction here made between people who are serving and people who are no longer serving, and we call them veterans. And one of the things I would like to be able to do is to use horticultural therapy to bring them all as a community, bring them closer together, because they have a common denominator, because they've all served their country.
Yes. And that's in them, and that's never going to go away.
No, never. I mean, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Royal Hospital or Chelsea pensioners, but if you ask a Chelsea pensioner, any Chelsea pensioner, do you consider yourself to be a civilian? They will all say no. They are military, they are soldiers, and until they die. And it's that simple. So I feel quite strongly that gardening as a common language is something that they can all share, and if done properly, it will bring them all together.
Yes, because especially as those veterans are getting older, you know, we know the great benefits of gardening for our seniors in the community, and I do a lot of work with the seniors in the community. So it'd be wonderful to continue that process for them as they are aging, to keep that gardening going and keeping that connection.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And you've seen it yourself, how valuable and precious it is to keep people active and to keep their minds active.
Yes.
And to give them something as conversation. You know, you don't have to know someone to be able to talk about your green fly problems. It doesn't matter, does it, really?
No, it doesn't matter. We're all one once we start talking about gardening and dirt and compost and bulbs.
Right. You're so right.
Yeah. My morning this morning was with it's school holidays over here in Queensland, so I ran a workshop called Discovering Dirt, and I was with little school kids, and then tomorrow I'm going to be gardening with people in an aged care home who have dementia. So that's the scope, and we're doing the very similar things, and I will have just as much fun. Yeah. Age doesn't matter, ability doesn't matter. It's beautiful.
How amazing. So you really do exemplify both ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely. We are all one. We are all one in nature.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yep. We are indeed.
Yeah.
We are indeed.
So is there anything else you wanted to share with us about the wonderful program you are running? Any other fantastic things that you wanted to share? Because I know so much about this, but I really want our listeners to hear all about this. So anything else you wanted to share?
It's wonderful to be having this opportunity. The only thing I would like to say is just how much I appreciate the language of being able to talk about horticultural therapy to people all over the world. Because as you're saying, we are one in nature, And it's such a unifying thing. I know they're doing amazing things, the VA in America, to help veterans to get into farming. And HighGround we're working very closely with DEFRA and all sorts of land-based. In this country we call it the land-based sector. So that's farming, forestry, conservation, horticulture, all the land-based. It's just a term, really. But it's the military skills and experience that these people have lend themselves so brilliantly to that sector. That's a huge part of what we do to help them to identify themselves beyond, if you like, to reinvent themselves after their military careers. So that's why our strapline is Life Beyond the Military Outdoors.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's amazing that, you know, since I've been involved in horticultural therapy for 3 years now, I am seeing the benefits to so many people. It's like it helps everybody. I can't think of anyone who would not benefit from a program like this. So I think the more that we can spread word about it and find out more programs that are being developed and encourage people to get involved, it is going to grow from there. And then everyone in the community benefits. So it's wonderful. I feel very blessed that we've been able to share this with our listeners in the Wellbeing Garden and encourage people to get involved however they can.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
My pleasure. I've been wanting to connect for a while and we've been in touch via email, so it's great to finally connect and chat again and to share this with everyone. Now, I will put all the links to your social media, to the website, to all the information in the show notes so people can go there and see if they want to get involved in any way. So thank you so much, Anna, for sharing that with us. It was absolutely wonderful, and I look forward to hearing all the progress over the next 12 months and maybe even coming over and visiting and getting involved somehow myself.
Oh, you must do. Very, very welcome, Cath. Very welcome indeed. And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to all your gardeners.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. It's always wonderful to connect with Anna and hear about all the wonderful things happening at HighGround. Now, if you'd like some more information on their programs, have a look in the show notes. I've included links for you, and follow all their social media channels to keep an update on everything that's happening with the move to the new location. Thanks again for joining me in the Wellbeing Garden. I look forward to seeing you next time. Enjoy an amazing day.